Hi, welcome to Let's Talk About Writing, how to write and publish a book. And today we have a special guest, Connie. So before we start, I would love because I wasn't here for 2 weeks. I was in Paris, and so I really want to hear a little bit about Audrey and Diana journey in the writing journey. Just a little bit to before we dive in with Connie about her book and all the amazing stuff she is doing. But first of all, I want just to catch up a little bit with Audrey, Diana. Anything special you want to share about your writing journey?
About my writing?
No. No. First of all, I want to ask Audrey and
Oh,
Diana,
oh,
and then you.
sorry about that.
You are no, it's okay. You are the guest, so you will have all the time. But for now, just Audrey or Diana, a little bit of the writing process in the last few weeks. Audrey, you want to share a little bit?
Sure. Hi, Connie. Nice to meet you. I'm very new to writing, but I have this calling to share my story. So I started working with Adelia just a couple months ago. I have a hard time with writing. I feel like I'm a talker more than more than a writer.
Yeah.
I often just talk in my head, if that makes sense. And then the story goes in my head, but then just like, okay, it's not on paper. So I'm very frustrated. And of course, I have my scheduled times for writing. And it just seems like at those times, I'm either like not in that right mindset or I just write something else. Yeah, it's been kind of like a learning experience for me, but there are some pages on paper and I know that it's like one step at a time and I just have to keep going. So that's me.
Yeah. Thank you. Diana, you want to share a little bit about your book, your process?
Well, I am writing a book about navigating addiction as a family, but the last couple weeks I haven't been doing anything because my car broke down and then I had a sick dog, and so when the stuff piles up, um, it was all I could do to. My dog's been in and out of the vet hospital, but she's doing better finally. She hadn't eaten for like 4 days, and I finally got her to eat, but
I'm sorry.
that was consuming.
So nothing about writing, and it's totally fine. I totally understand.
Yeah,
So
I was really writing a lot after that AI class I took, and but then everything, when everything happens at once, you just kind of you lose the focus. So that's where I'm at
absolutely,
right now. Yeah.
absolutely. But that's why I invited. So you know that most of the time I invite like editor, publisher, and all kind of stuff, designer. But I decided to have authors because we are talking about writing, and I love publisher and editor because without them I won't be able to publish my book. Seriously. I know how to write. I don't know how to edit or publish. And I think I have an amazing team with me. So now I want to introduce you, Connie. And Connie will tell a little bit more about herself and her book. And then I will ask her a few questions. Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, ladies. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your invitation so much, Odelia.
You're welcome.
So for me, I started what I wanted to write about for a long time was my marriage to my first husband, who was jealous, controlling, possessive, obsessive, narcissistic, just a horrible person. And it was an awful marriage. So I was divorced in 1999, and I had tried to write since back then, but I just didn't know how to do it. Like Audrey just said, I had all this stuff in my head, but I just didn't know how to put it. So back in 2011, I started my business, Lady Hitch Singles. So it wasn't, I didn't call it dating coaching back then. I called it image consulting for singles. So I helped with, their outward appearance and confidence and all of that stuff. So a friend of mine asked me if I would write for his online magazine on, dating and um, image and all of that stuff. So I did, even though I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought, oh God, I have to, because I'm gonna make some money with this. So anyway, so that's how I started. But then with my book, I still I would sit down and write, and then I would read it, and I would think, this is so boring. Nobody's ever gonna want to read this. It's stupid. And so I would put it down, and then this went on for years. So 2013, I was sitting home on a Friday night, and I was just inspired. And I started typing. I was sitting on my couch watching TV, and I just grabbed my laptop and I started typing. And I wrote 8 chapters. And even then, even back then when I wrote all those, when I'd go back and read, I still think that it wasn't all that great. So then I'm like, okay, well, what am I wrong? So then I was reading people's books, and it's like they're just talking. It's not like there's a formula or anything. It's like I'm just listening to them talk. So then I'd go in, I'd, edit my chapters and then write a little more. So I've been writing since 2013, and this book was just published. My book, because I didn't want to go to prison. So I just published it last month. And I was so excited when I first got it. I actually cried because it's like, even though it's a small book, but it's like, man, it tells so much of what my kids and I went through with this person. So that's what I decided to do. So now I have a couple other book titles that I'd like to start, would like to start writing. One of them is called My Stint at Motel 6, because I used to run Motel 6. There was a lot of drama there. So working on all the stories that I went through. I mean, I was on first name basis with the DEA, the Aurora Police, U.S. Marshals, all kinds of law enforcement agencies.
But I think that when we finished and we published the first one, it's easier to do the second, third. And I wrote a lot of books. I didn't publish yet all of them. I published just 2, but I wrote so many. So yeah, the first one is the hardest one, let's say. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But then, and I'd write it, and then it took me a long time to come up with an ending, because we weren't friends. We didn't become friends. I hated him for a long time, and then I got over it. So we were cordial. He was always at my events at my house, whether it was married to someone or whatever. So he'd always be there, whether I invited him or not. He'd always show up if there was a party.
Wow.
And I like I said, I don't like him, but it was like, I mean, we're the only family that he has, the kids and me. And so it was just something. So that I struggled with an ending. I'm like, how am I going to end this? Because I'm not his friend. He's not my friend. I don't like him. He comes over, but I still don't like him.
But you don't write for revenge.
Right. Yeah, no, I didn't want to do that. And then just not too long ago, I learned about something terrible that he did, and it just made me hate him again. It's like, oh, I can't stand that person. He's never ever going to change.
No, I don't think I think the most important is that to understand that no, I had the same situation with my ex-husband, and so we won't change them, we are not supposed to. But let's talk about writing a little bit more, because I'm super curious.
Yeah.
So you published your book like a few months ago, right?
Yes, I just published it in November, actually.
Okay. And when
Early
did you
November.
start? When did you start? 2013?
2012 is when I first, yes. When I
Okay.
was
So I'm excited because actually took me like a long time too to write my first book. So I really love the process of writing, taking our time to process and to write and to rewrite. And it's really a process. It's really a long, long, long process. But I do like it. So I feel much better now that Audrey is like, oh no. Audrey, Audrey, what do you think about that from
No, I
2020?
have to say that the process, I like it when you say that the process and when you say it's so healing for me specifically. Um, so Connie, my first husband, passed away on active duty military when our child was just 4 months old. And I kind of never really processed that whole thing. And then I jumped into another marriage just a few years later. So for me, this is kind of like just this going back and doing what I haven't been doing. And so my daughter is 13, almost 14 now. And even if I don't have as much on paper as I want to, it's just the side effects, for lack of better words, is so nice because like I pull out these pictures or picture frames, or now I'm looking, there's actually this whole external drive, which was sitting here for about 2 weeks because I'm too afraid to like plug this in because this had all of the photos from like that decade of my life, or I hope so. I have this fear like, oh, what if something happened? What if, because I never really wanted to look these up, but now I want to, and I want to show them to my daughter. So all of this, like I write about something, oh, and how was this? How? And then I get frustrated when I don't remember everything, but I'm learning just to look at the positives because as Odelia says, it's like a process and it's just so healing for me. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I was sitting here again for half an hour just thinking about something like, why isn't there something on the paper, right? But then it's still like very positive,
It steals
just
your
happening.
energy. Yeah, it steals
Yeah.
your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I could say something else. So for me,
Yeah.
when I was writing, it just brought up um, uh, emotions of anger because everything that I was writing just made me so angry to think that I let myself be controlled by this man. Everything about me. I mean, no makeup, no hair, no clothes that fit, no job, no friends. I couldn't go outside of my own house, no phone, nothing. I could not do anything. And and a lot of things I did to spite him because he would say, "Well, why don't you go with my mom and mom and Sissy, his sister, go shopping with them?" I'm like, "No, if I can't go on my own or if I can't go with a friend, then I'm not going to go with your chaperones." And it would just make me so mad, that I had to. It was his way or no way.
Yeah, I had the same, and I see. I'm looking at Diana, and she's like nodding, yes, yes, yes. Diana, do you have something to say specifically about that kind of relationship?
Yeah. So I was married to a narcissist who wasn't as controlling as that. In that, like, honestly, I divorced him because he started getting really possessive and controlling. And I was like, oh, hell no. And like, I think there were a couple like abusive incidences, like with physical abuse. And then he used to tell me he'd cut me up into little pieces and bury me in the backyard if I ever left him. And all between all of those, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. If he's going to kill me, he's going to kill me. But like, and so then, we divorced in 2000, and in 2009 I moved to Colorado, and he died 3 weeks before I moved here. And
Oh,
I needed permission from him to allow my kids to leave the state. And I didn't want my kids to lose their dad. And I was kind of like you, Connie, where I wasn't friends with him, but like at family events, sometimes we'd have to be in the same room and we could be amicable, but like he'd follow me around, and it was so uncomfortable. And so like I wouldn't say we were friends, but we made up in a sense, so that I was really
right.
glad, like when he did pass away, that I felt like we were on better terms. But I just felt like, man, the universe works in mysterious ways because, you know,
Mhm.
I don't
Well,
I
for
don't
me, with my book title, because I didn't want to go to prison, I came up with that even way before I thought of writing a book because
okay.
people, everybody thought people would say, "Why did you guys get a divorce?" People from church. why'd you guys get a divorce? You always seem so happy, and you guys are the perfect family, blah, blah, blah. And I always would say, because I didn't want to go to prison. And the only reason I didn't want to, because I
Same.
wanted to kill him. I thought one of us is going to die, and
Yeah.
I don't want to go to prison because I'm the one
Yeah.
that's going to kill him, because
Yeah.
I just
True.
hated him. I was just so angry and just
Yeah.
couldn't stand to be with him.
But I
Well,
think, sorry, I really believe that, like Audrey shared about what she's doing with her daughter, the picture and everything. I think it's the energy of writing, and it's not just the word you put on the paper, it's all what's going on with, even if you're writing just a sentence or a little chapter, all that energy is really transforming everything around you. And that's why I do what I do, because I truly believe that the first and most important is to have your voice back and to share what you have to share. And like Connie said, sometimes it's with anger and sometimes it's with happiness or whatever, joy or sadness and everything. But what I find is that I truly learned to like let go of judgment in the process of writing. And it was super hard because let go of judgment is like a permission. It allowed me to like forgive a lot of people and mostly forgive myself, because like Connie said, I felt a lot of shame and a lot of fear. And I think when shame and fear control our life, it's super sad because you cannot move on to like pretty much nothing in your life, no relationship or no whatever. So it was really important for me to stop everything pretty much. And I was lucky because I had my husband, Sharon, who supported me with the kids. But I really believe you can change your life by writing your story, even if it's not perfect the first time. And it's okay. So,
So for me, and I've always said this, I was never, and I didn't, I grew up in a happy home. I never ever saw my parents fight. I knew when my mom was pissed off at my dad for whatever, but they never fought. And the way that my ex and I fought was vicious. I mean, yelling and screaming, and it got physical the last 5 years. We ended up in jail for domestic violence, both of us, and it was awful. It hurts me that I put my kids through that they had to grow up seeing this type of relationship that they shouldn't have seen. And it just makes me that's what makes me sad. That's where I regret waiting so long, because my oldest was 18, my youngest was 12, and I thought, you know what, I think this would have been easier had I left when they were little, because I lost my kids for 2 years. I mean, he is such a controlling person. He wouldn't let me see them. The day that I left with the clothes on my back, because he would say, it was the day before our 15th anniversary, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I need to leave today. And then he would say, go upstairs and pack your shit and get the hell out of here. So I'd go upstairs and pack my things, and then he would literally block my exit from the door for hours and hours and hours. I mean, he would stand there for hours. He did it for many years. And
did you put that on your book, in your book or not?
mhm,
Good.
yeah, but it was just such a terrible experience. But like I said, I never backed down from him. So I don't know if you know the song by Tom Perry, um, I Won't Back Down. I always say that's my anthem. It's like, I won't back down. But that day that I left him, I said, never again will I be in a relationship like this. And I never have, because um, that's what I said that I never wanted. So in my coaching, coaching singles, I always thought, why is it that it takes some people, both men and women, to get over that past trauma so long? It just takes, for me, it was instant. The day that I left, it was like a whole other person came out. And I was a brand new person. I was who I wanted to be, not somebody who was kept, like at an arm's length
Oh,
so
wow.
that nobody else would look at me. And there were times when it was just so ridiculous that he would say, it's not that I don't trust you, it's just I don't trust the neighbors. I'm like, so I would just get so so upset about that. I'd open the front door and yell to the neighbors, "I'm coming out, everybody, come look at me."
And right
You
now,
know,
my
just to
daughter,
fight him that it was so absurd.
my daughter left a controlling person like a little over a year ago, and it took me like she's from the or she lives in the Midwest, and so I flew out there the first time because she was like just really shut down, and I knew she had rented an apartment actually 2 months prior to that, but couldn't get the courage. She was like, she's to this day, she'll say, I don't think he'd ever hurt me physically, but I do think subconsciously she worries about that, but she can't admit it to herself. Because she had that apartment rented for 2 months. She put like a couple boxes in it and couldn't tell him. She was afraid to tell him. So I went out there and helped her move in, and she didn't tell him I was coming till the day I was there. And then it was horrible, like so creepy. And so they have a child together, but they've been apart for over a year. And then she got a restraining order on him. And the only reason she did that was because he started attacking, like verbally, this guy she was seeing and the guy's parents. And so it was just like she doesn't think highly enough of herself to get the restraining order. But when he started attacking someone else, then she was like, "Oh hell no!" And it's like her self-worth, right? And so like it's just so frustrating for me because I want to shake her sometimes and go like, don't you see you're letting him still control you and you're not even with him? And like, so right now he's verbally, I mean, he must call her like 30 plus times a day, along with all the text messages and videos he sends her. And you're a piece of shit. Why would anyone ever want to be with you? But then the next day, why don't you want to come back to me? And it's just, he's very sick.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
And that's
psycho, like my
you,
ex.
Psycho.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta remind yourself that he's really just sick,
I have I have a question for Connie. So, Connie, I understand like the title of your book. I can relate because I was in the same place, and it's super annoying. Like so many women are in that position, unfortunately. I do believe and I'm not judging, but I do believe it's not maybe not for you, but for me. Even though my parent never really had a big drama stuff, and with my ex-husband, it was a lot of drama, yelling, and all what you said, and police, and blah blah blah. But my parents were really polite and really. So I don't know. I don't know why I marry him, but I think I really believe that I married him because of something that happened in my childhood. So you are like I was impacted by something, maybe because I was adopted, or maybe I don't know. But I'm pretty sure it's beginning way before we are married. I just want to like run away and get married with whoever.
Well, you know what? And some of that is true for me. Just marry whoever. But the
Yeah.
reason for that was because I got pregnant when I was 15 years old. And, we didn't get married. We were both kids. We didn't get married. I was
Mhm.
16 when my son was born. Then a couple years later after that, I was dating somebody else. I got pregnant again. I had twin daughters. So I was 19 years old with 3 children. And he took care of us financially. He supported us, and we still had somewhat of a relationship. But I wanted to be married. I said, "Well, I want to get married. Don't want to be your girlfriend." He said, "Well, I'm starting my business. I don't really want to get married right now." And I said, "Okay, well, it's me or not, now or never." So then I started working, and that's when I met my ex, and he was just all over. I never liked him from the first instant that I saw him. I thought he was arrogant and just nothing about him appealed, even though everybody thought that he was like, oh my God, he's like so handsome and this and that. I didn't think he was, and I didn't like him. But then, and the reason why this is so stupid, I mean, I was so immature. I was 19 years old. And
I was
uh,
20. So yeah.
so we worked at a manufacturing plant, a factory, and all the girls there were chasing after him, and he was chasing after me. So they hated me for that, and they punctured all 4 of my tires one day. And I was so mad that I thought, oh, well, I'm going to get back at them. I'm going to start seeing him. For that reason, I started seeing him.
Oh my goodness me. Yeah, I understand.
And that's how we ended up. That's how we ended up. That's how I ended up with him. But there were so many red flags that I didn't
Yeah, me too.
see
Yeah.
back then, being so young and not having experienced that with my parents. I mean, like I said, I never saw my parents fight. My mom always said, you pay your debts as soon as you can that way because your job is never secure and blah blah blah. Well, with him, when we first got together, he was still married, and we got together and my student loan came due. And I said, I need to pay my student loan. And then he said, oh, you don't have to pay that. They don't need, you don't need to pay it back. They won't do anything to you. And I was like, really? Okay.
Wow. But you know what I love? I love that you are smiling. So that's the most important because, like, I don't know if Diana Audrey said, when we are going through all that, and I think this is the most magical thing with the writing, like when I was 19, 20, whatever, and we are just going through life and we don't know much. And of course, we are young and pretty and a lot of energy. Not like today, but
Right.
but seriously, we don't know much. And in my time when I was like, I don't know how old are you, but I'm 50
I
and
just turned 60 last weekend.
oh wow, happy birthday. You look
Thank
amazing.
you.
Goodness. Anyway, I know that in our time it was like we were more for me, I was so naive, like really not like today with the internet and everything. It was really different. But I think that sometime I had a lot of stuff I want to process and I didn't, and I just move on because that's what you do when you're young. You want to enjoy your life and not be sitting there and thinking too much. So I think that writing is that opportunity to really process a lot of stuff. You didn't have the opportunity. And maybe because I did have some time with a lot of deep thinking and everything, but and deep conversation, but sometimes you don't have the choice. Like with my ex-husband, I didn't have a choice. I need to survive. So I did write a book about him, by the way.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, Audrey is laughing.
What is
Audrey,
that one called?
never allowed.
Oh, yeah. I have a chapter called Never Not Allowed.
Yeah. So it was not allowed, and now it's never allowed. But I finished it, and yeah, yeah, and I put everything. So I really believe in writing from my heart and not really caring. I do care about what people think about my books, but I really put my heart on the paper, and so yeah. And so the reason you wrote your book, let's go back to Connie. I can relate to Connie so much. Even the rebellion, like so Connie, so okay. So you wrote your book because you don't yeah, you divorced because you didn't want to go to jail. And I totally relate with that. But what was that little something inside of your heart that make you like write that book? Like really for you, not for the readers. Like just for you.
You know what, though? It wasn't even anything about the book. It was just, so back in 2011, when I started Lady Hitch, Gary, I think was maybe one of them, Gary Barnes, who said that I should have a book. So
Like he's saying to
I thought,
every one of us. That's why
right.
I rewrote my book, by the way. Anyway.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, well, I said, I've been thinking about writing this book. And so the purpose for that was because I wanted to go on a speaking circuit. I wanted to be a speaker. And so that's why I said, well, I'll write the book. And it was supposed to be, I used to say it's a funny it's a humorous account of a really serious issue, So it didn't turn out as funny as I thought it was going to be, because it's like, I mean, now I see, now I think it's funny of all the stuff that I allowed him to do. But I'm like, God, how could that be funny? But the stories are funny because my kids always say, Mom, remember that time when Dad took us for a drive? So he took us for a drive because we had been fighting and he didn't want, the neighbors to hear us again. So he's like, no, everybody get in the car. We're going to go for a drive. So I was like, no, I don't want to go. So I had to go. And so we were driving. I really don't even remember where. I don't remember it was up towards Wyoming or up to the mountains. I don't remember where, but I remember every person that I would see must have been up in the mountains because we were driving slow and I could see people, like off to the side or a river or whatever, or people passing us, and I'd be screaming, help me, help me, help me. And nobody would. So
Oh, wow.
the kids are like, remember that, Mom? I said, yes, I remember that.
I
But
have,
the thing about that is that after I divorced him, I was in my apartment and the people that lived below me were fighting really, really bad. I could hear them screaming and yelling. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to dial 911 because you never know if that's the one phone call that woman needs to get out.
absolutely.
Every time that I've seen somebody like that, whether they look distressed in their car or whether they're fighting, in their house and I can hear it, I always call the police because it might be the one thing that they need
Absolutely.
to help them
And
get
it's so
out.
sad. But yes, Audrey need to leave. So I want just to say thank you, Audrey, for showing up.
Yes,
And
thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
I
you.
hate not hearing the end of this, but I look forward to the recording. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
bye. I will send you the recording and I will see you on Thursday. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, so much, so much, so much to relate. Oh my
But the
goodness.
thing about the book now that, as I started to write it, I'm like, I really want, and I really did. He had Crohn's disease back in the 90s, and it was pretty bad. And that's when I thought it started to think that I could just kill him by, giving him more pills or something. I truly was planning,
I
I
love
wanted
you.
to kill him.
I
But
just
I
love
always,
you.
but I always thought, thank God that I was smart enough to know that the cops are smarter than I was. So
Yeah.
they would have known I did it. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to go to prison. So,
Yeah. But I know Gary Barnes and Diana also know Gary Barnes. I did the speaker boot camp and I did everything. And I really believe that that what happened with my book too, because when I was last here as a business boot camp, I had my book and it was in translation from Hebrew because I'm writing my book in Hebrew. Now I'm writing in English, but anyway, so I brought my book and I was there and I'm like, I have a book because Gary, of course, asked me, do you have a book? And I'm like, yeah, I have a book. But I knew that the translations, it was really bad. And I was like, how do I do that again? I already had an editor and translator, blah, 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 and publisher, and it was a big mess. It was a disaster. And so Veronica Jager opened my book and she's like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, I know the translation is really bad. And she's like, no, I'm talking about the layout. All the layout is, and I was like, oh, shoo. Okay. So now I have two problems, the layout and the translation, because in Hebrew, it's all the way, like the other side, right? So I didn't know about the layout in English. Anyway, that's why I rewrote my book and republished, and now it's really good. So I'm super happy. but but for me, and what I was wondering, it was like, why did I, like, why you personal? I know Gary asked you if you had a book and it's really convincing and really amazing. But for me, my personal, and I did republish because of Gary, not for Gary or whatever. But the real reason behind that, it was for forgiveness, because I was really mad. I was really, really mad. And I had all my life, I had that voice like of, you are adopted, you birth mom, blah, 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 you adoptive mom, blah, 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 and all the time. And I cannot even concentrate on like, what next? What do I do in my life? I'm like all the time. So I really needed that too. And the funny stuff is that, I forgive like my mom, my birth mom, blah. And then my husband one time he asked me, you okay? I'm like, yeah. And he said, you need to forgive, I'm like, I know I already did. Like, I'm good. And he said, you sure? I'm like, why? And he's like, you are still crying about that. You are
Mm.
crying all the time. And I'm like, but I did forgive. And he said, I think you are just forgetting someone.
You?
And me, yeah, me. And I asked him, what are you talking about? And he said, I won't tell you, but you're forgetting someone. And so I understood, like, for me, it was forgiveness for myself because I was in that position. And by the way, it happened again with my second book about my ex-husband. But it was that position of, why did I went through that? Why I was adopted? Why my mom didn't want me? And I think we are really controlled by shame and fears, and like, why? What did I do wrong to be here in that position of, my birth mom doesn't want me? Like, it's crazy. So for me, it was forgiveness. And I don't know if every author need to have a reason. Some people just want to write, and it's totally okay. But so you didn't want to go to jail, and I'm super happy. You
Me
didn't.
too. Even though I tell my kids, I tell them, I'd be out by now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I did my 20 years, get out for good behavior. I'd be done.
Oh my God, you're crazy. I love you. This is so crazy. But did you have a specific personal, something more personal about that? Like, just anger, and it's okay, because when I started writing it, I was really mad. And all my
Well,
first manuscript was like a lot of, like, oh my gosh, such a blah blah blah.
I was mad at him, but I was also mad at me because my mom was, people would, every time that I would tell people about this, they're like, oh, well, maybe it's because maybe your mom was like that. I'm like, no, my mom was a modern woman. My mom worked, she had friends. Both my parents did things, they'd go out to parties and they do things together. So no, my mom wasn't a little submissive woman, which I became. But for me, I wanted to please him. When we first got married, I was so grateful that here was this man who took me in with 3 little children, you know. And so I wanted to be a good wife to him. And I was a very good wife. But then when I got into my 30s and I thought, I think there's more to life than just being told what to do. And when I said, I think I want to go back to school, or I'd like to get my own job or something, that's when all hell started to break loose. Because no, why do you want to go back to school? So you can have friends and you can meet other men and you could do this. It was always about me being around other men, always.
This is
Ridiculous.
crazy. Or maybe there are just crazy people out there, and we don't need to fix them.
Well, yeah, my mother-in-law, his mom, would say, I don't know if she tried to justify him or what, but she said that his dad would lock her up in the house and actually put a physical lock outside the door so she wouldn't get out.
Oh my God.
And my sister-in-law, his sister, would say, just go. If he gets pissed off, let him get over it. But then I'm thinking, no, because then I have to come home and deal with him, and I don't want to deal with him. And he was that type. you know, when people are always saying, oh, she's such a nagging wife and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's how he was. You know, he'd be like, nag, nag, nag. And I'd say, stop, I don't want to fight. Stop, I don't want to fight. And then after 30 minutes of that, I'd be like, all right, I blow up too. And then that's when we'd have huge blow up fights. I mean, it was bad. The day that we got arrested, we both got arrested. He had cleaned the carpet, and then he went and got in the shower, and I was feeding the kids. And I went to we lived in a trailer, so it was like the kitchen is connected to the living room. So I was on the couch, the kids were like 10 feet away at the table. And he came out of the shower and he said, where's my plate? And I said, get it yourself. And he got so mad, he threw the
Ooh.
dish rag at me, and it scooted the hot spaghetti onto my lap. It was summer and I was wearing shorts. So I burned my legs. And I got so mad, I grabbed the plate and I threw it across the living room. So there's spaghetti sauce all over the living room carpet, all over the walls, everywhere. And then he got pissed off. And then we started fighting, you know, screaming and yelling and physically fighting. And somebody called the cops that day. The neighbors called the cops. So the police came and they were arresting him because obviously, you know, they could tell that I had been fighting with someone. So they were arresting him. And then he's like, well, she hit me too. And then the officer says, did you hit him, ma'am? And I was so mad. I was like, yes, I did. So there I go, back of the car, handcuffed.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. So did you put everything in your book? Where did you start? I didn't have a chance to read it yet, but I will.
It starts with May 23rd, 1999 is a day that I'll always remember. So that chapter is called The End from the Beginning. So it starts that day that I left, and
Okay.
then I go back to how I came about to meeting him and all that. You know, I was a 16-year-old mom and then a 19-year-old mom of 3. And, you know, every night I'd pray for God to send me a husband that would love me and my children, which he did. And I tell the kids that, I'm like, you know, at that point back then, he was an answer to my prayers, because that's what I wanted. I wanted a husband and I wanted a father for my
We need to
children.
be careful what we're asking for.
Need to be more specific.
More specific. Yeah, that's what I meant. We need to be more specific of what we are asking.
Right. More detailed. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
no
more
seconds.
yeah. That's what I did for my second husband, actually. So yeah, and it did work. So
Well, that's what I did with my husband. So I was married a second time, and then this is my third husband. But I was single for 7 years, and I was just not ready. I mean, I dated a lot, but I was just not ready to meet anyone. And then one morning I woke up, February 12th, 2018, I woke up and I said, Lord, I'm ready for my husband. Send him to me now. And then March 15th, a month later, there he was.
good, good. Yeah, I heard you were married twice. I think in the
Yeah, in the
Gary.
talk of Speak Off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What you share about the second marriage, I think.
He was just not into me.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
It's like he couldn't care less if I was there or not. I mean, other than, and I was a good wife to him too. The day that we went to file for divorce, we went together, and you know, we were friends, but it was like, um, I told him, I said, Terry, I hope that you know that I was a good wife to you. He's like, nope, you were not. You were a great wife.
Oh, okay.
And I said, but he didn't appreciate me. And you know, it took me I was so in love with him. It took me 4 years to realize that he was just not
Are
into
you
me.
were together for 4 years?
We were together for 8 years. But
Oh,
the
wow.
first 4 years, it was like I didn't even notice that he wasn't into me. And then 4 years, I still say I would say I don't want to get another divorce. I need to make this work. But then, you know, I would find phone numbers, and I would find, one day I came home from work because he didn't work on Mondays. He was military and he was off on Mondays. And I had just cleaned the house on Sunday. So, you know, when you freshly vacuum the carpet and you could see nice and fluffy. So the next day when I came home from work, I could see 2 sets of footprints throughout the house. So I said, oh, did somebody come over? He's like, no. I'm like, no. I said, well, it looks like there's 2 sets of footprints throughout the house, like you were showing somebody the house. He's like, what, you can see footprints? I'm like, I just vacuumed yesterday. Yes, I can see 2 sets of footprints. side by side. And so then I just started being insecure and jealous. And there were times when I would drive home from work because I have a feeling that I was going to find him there with somebody. And then when he didn't want to go to my daughter's college graduation in Nebraska, I said, you know what, Terry, this is not good for our marriage. So then when I got back, I thought, I'm done. I can't live like this with this horrible feeling in my gut that, you're doing this to me and all of that. And I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. So one of the things that really did it for me was we were sitting at the table having lunch one Sunday afternoon, and then he picked up his glass and he starts doing that, rattling his ice cubes. And it just made me so mad. And I said, you know what, Terry? I said, had you said, baby, I need a refill? I said, I would have jumped like I always do to get you a refill. I said, but don't rattle your effing ice cubes to me. I said, you don't appreciate what I do? And he's like, it was a joke. I said, that was not a funny joke. I mean, I would get up. I was a general manager at a couple of hotels. And I used to go to work really early so that I could see the people who worked overnight. So, I'd get there by 5:30, 5:30 or 6. So I'd get up. And back then, I think you think I have long hair. I had really long hair. And I would wash it every day. So, I'd get up early, take my shower, do my hair. I would get up and start dinner for the evening. I would make him 1 dozen burritos every day so that he could take into his office. And I mean, I did a lot, and I wanted to do a lot because I wanted to be that. I've always said I'm a traditional woman, so I want to take care of my husband, and that's what I did because that's what I wanted to do for him. But when he rattled his ice cubes in front of me, I was like, "Don't do that shit to me again." So that was the beginning of the end. The ice cube rattling.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And now you're married, right?
I'm
Yeah,
married
happy
with
ending.
happy and I have the best husband. I adore him. He adores me. Our kids love us. He's got 2 boys. I have 5 kids. Everybody loves him. My grandchildren, I mean, they adore him. He's
Oh,
just the best thing. So it's like, I said, you know what? I said, he is not the kind of husband that I was looking for. I wanted so before I met him, I was engaged to a rich older white guy. And I was in love with him too. I loved him so much. And he's the one that, said that he didn't want the financial liability of another ex-wife. So he
oh
called off
yeah.
our wedding 2 months before our wedding, called it off. And then it was like, I couldn't get over him. It took me 7 years to get over him. And then till that morning when I had that epiphany and I said, all right, Lord, I'm ready for my husband. But my husband was not at all the look that I was looking for.
Yeah.
So when I met him, I was like, Lord, is that my husband? And he is just the best thing that's ever happened to me. He is an
Oh,
amazing husband. So the
wow.
other day, sometimes I get, I dated a lot in those 7 years that I was married. Most of them were just one times, but for some reason, I've always stayed in touch with all these men that I've met throughout the 7 years, or even before that, even like, 1999 when I first got a divorce. But so this one gentleman called me and he's like, hey, how's married life? And I said, it's great. And he's like, are you happy? I said, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy and I'm in love. And he's like, oh, well, that's good to hear. And I tell my husband, he said, I'm so glad that you love me. I said, I'm so glad that I love you too. I said, you know how it is to be with somebody that you don't love?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. So it's a good ending. I'm happy. So when did you meet him? A few years ago?
March 2018. So it's
Oh,
almost 7 years.
18. Wow. Oh, me too. No, I met my husband. No, 18 was a 10-year anniversary. Yeah. I met him in 2008. So 18 was already 10 years. Oh, wow.
Well,
This is
that's good.
great.
I always say I would, because I was married for 15 years the first time and then 8 years and now almost, well, 6 years. So it's like, wow, I've been married for like 29 years or no, more than that. Let's see, 15,
Wow.
23. Yeah,
It's
30
a lot.
years.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, great. I can wait to read your book. And since I just came back from France, I need to catch up a lot of stuff. Diana,
Yeah.
do you have a question before we go? We have a few minutes left. And do you have a question about the writing or?
No, not really. No questions. I think your story is great, Connie, and I can
Thank
relate
you.
to a lot of it. And like I said, my daughter's going through it right now, even though she's away from him. And my sister's trying to leave her husband. And it's like,
Oh,
yeah,
Well, I've always said I'm not an advocate for divorce. If you can work it out, work it out. But then when it gets to, in my case, where I just hated him so much, and I was always mad and resentful, I was even taking it out on my kids, being angry with them. And it's like, this is not good. And it took me
yeah,
a long time before I finally got the guts to do it, because I wanted to do it, but I just
yeah.
couldn't do it. He
And
would talk me
my
out of it.
daughter wasn't married to him, thank God, but they still have a child together. And now, like, I feel for her that he's always threatening to go after full custody. And I'm like, he's not going to get full custody. And I keep telling her also, she should be making a police report. She could probably do it every day, as much as he harasses her, and go get another restraining order, because also that if she is afraid of him going, getting any sort of custody, again, I don't think he doesn't have a leg to stand on, but like that gives her ammunition, to like the courts look at that. And honestly, I really do believe that kids need their father, but I believe that he's poisoning her son. He is, I know he is, like he does it right in front of her, and
Yeah.
he's
My
4,
my ex did that to my kids. That
yeah.
day, the day I left, I said, I told the kids, I'm leaving right now. Who's coming with me? They're like, no, mom, no. And they knew that this day was coming just because of the escalation of our fighting. They're like, no. So I said, I have to. And I left. I drove away. And it still breaks my heart every time I think about it, because I'm looking in the mirror and I can see the kids yelling and screaming. But then, I went back the next day and he wouldn't let them open the door. So then he wouldn't let them, then they would talk to me through the window and then they suddenly stopped. So when we went to court, I told the judge that, and he said that that was wrong. But that when I went the next day that I left, I went to the court and I filed my own papers. I never hired an attorney because I'm like, I don't want anything. All I want is a divorce and joint custody. So I did that on my own. And I'm like, there's no way that I will not get joint custody. So I did, even though I didn't see my kids for 2 years. Well, I didn't see them for that whole year. And then we reconciled. He was stalking me. So I parked at the grocery store one morning and he shows up right at my door in my car. And he says, you need to come home. The kids miss you and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, let me see them. I was like, why don't you let me see the kids? No, you need to come home and be their mom. So I was like, oh God. So it was like, I mean, it was like a huge dilemma. Why do I have to go back to him in order to see my kids? But the kids were like, Mom, you have to. We miss you. So we did. And I said, this will never happen again. I'm not the same person. If you give me one little inkling of the way that you were, I'm done that day. So he did. And I said, I told you there was no more chances, just this. So then I didn't see my kids for 2 years after that because he poisoned them. And he said that I didn't want them, that I just wanted to live the single life, and that I regretted having my kids. And he's just a horrible person. He's that way to his son. He's got a son from his fourth wife, and Hondo's 24. Sweet kid. I adore him. He's great. I treat him like one of my grandkids. But he won't let him do anything. He won't let him date. He didn't let him go to the college that he wanted to go to. He just controls everything about him, like he did us.
Yeah, and that's what this guy's still trying to do. And, I hate that I don't live by my daughter, because I know if I lived there, I'd be like, come on, we're going to the domestic abuse agency today. And she'd go if because she just gets so shut down. She can't do anything. And I totally get it. But I'm like, if, I told her, when you had the restraining order, wasn't it nice to have that month of peace? Because I remember her saying that, God, it's just so peaceful with him not blowing up my phone and everything. And I'm like, don't you want that for yourself? You deserve that. And honestly, like I think she should go for full custody because he is a sick person and he's going to do, irreparable damage to that little boy, And so it's like I do believe that kids need their father, but not when someone is that sick.
Well,
Oh,
and
I'm not.
I've watched so many shows. I used to watch Snapped, I watched Dateline, and I watch all these shows of women that have gone through all of this stuff. And a lot of them don't get out of there.
I know. I know.
And
Well, I mean, my sister, sorry, she couldn't leave forever, and she has to sneak around and do everything right now to try to leave. And even though she told him and they had this amicable conversation about her leaving, like he doesn't think it's real. And she's just a glorified maid for him. Like he hides all the money and she just waits on him. I just hate it.
I never had any money. I had
me too.
$128 the day I left. And
Yeah.
I
I
left
have
with
nothing.
nothing, just what I was
This
wearing.
he's
Me too.
he has billions of he's a billionaire and he hides everything from her. Yeah.
Yeah, well, needs to document,
She is.
Yeah,
especially if
absolutely.
he has
Starting.
all those
Yeah,
resources.
yeah, yeah. He's got cameras all over the house and yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
It's a movie or what?
Reality show.
I
Yeah.
mean, I told you, Adelia, he's a prominent New York City attorney that defends like
Oh,
the
I know. Yeah, okay.
and El Chapo. And so like in the past when she thought about leaving when her kids were younger, he would threaten to make her disappear and he could have done it because he has the contacts. So
Yes.
now their kids are in college and they get along better now. He's always cheating on her. Like, I mean, their life was plastered all over the New York Post for a week because of somebody he cheated on. He cheated with, and so finally, like it's amicable, but it's because she does everything he wants. So she's just trying to get things lined up so she can leave. And I don't think he's gonna, hurt her like we were worried that he would in the beginning or earlier on. I don't think he's gonna do that. Is he gonna try to hide as much money as he can from her? Yeah, because he's a greedy son of a bitch. So yeah, but she's at least this is the furthest I've ever seen her go in trying to leave. So I'm really glad. Hopefully she can find herself again.
Yeah.
It's all in the mind. The mind is a
Yeah,
powerful thing.
it sure is. It's
Yeah.
just
For
I've
me,
never
it
been to
was a
I've
long
never
time.
been to therapy
mm,
ever
Me neither.
because because I'm like, no, I don't need to talk to anybody about this. I mean, this is all I wasn't the one with the problem, it was him.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you,
Anyway,
ladies, so much. Thank you for
thank you so much for
and
being with us. Let's talk
oh,
about writing. It's twice a month. So next time it will be on, I don't know. Diana, help me. On the 7th. On the 7th. So, yeah, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And then on 21st, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And on the first Tuesday of the month, we are talking about writing and about, I will prepare something special for that day. And on the 21st, we will have a guest. And I don't know yet who is my guest, but I have a long list of friends. So I need to start writing emails right now. Anyway, thank you so much, Connie. It was super
thank
interesting.
you, Odelia. Thank
Love,
you. I
love, love.
appreciate you doing this. Goodbye, ladies. Merry
Bye.
Christmas.
Bye, Diana.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Bye.
Christmas. Bye, Diana. Bye.